Now, we all remember when Overwatch 2 was announced back in 2019, it was set to be the successor to Overwatch that came out in 2016 and was set to improve on original features and new gameplay mechanics and also to include a rich story. But this is the thing, by 2023 there has been a rapid decline in the fan base for Overwatch 2, and that includes the player base as well. And by 2022, Overwatch has seen a very steep and rapid decline in engagement from the players, which is all down to multiple issues. And we all remember what Overwatch promised us. They promised us a shared ecosystem, so Overwatch 2 and Overwatch 1 players could play together, as well as a PvE mode that was a story mode essentially, as well as more RPG mechanics when it came to customizing our characters in those single player modes. And there were hero missions that were meant to kind of be like raids where you could replay them over and over again to attain new rewards and character customization, and in addition to this PvE, which would have expanded on the lore of Overwatch itself, and overall just kind of fleshed out the Overwatch universe. And of course, with it being pushed to next gen or current gen now, there was a upgrade in the graphics and of course a modernized version of each character, so like a new skin. And they even incorporated a new game mode called Push, where both sides try and fight to get the robot to the opposite team's side. And all of this promise was set to justify Overwatch 2's existence, because as we all know, nobody really wanted an Overwatch 2, they just wanted the game to be consistently updated, and this is a story that we've seen with Destiny as well. No one really wanted a Destiny 2, but we still got it anyway. And initially, after all of this was revealed at BlizzCon 2019, for some reason Blizzard decided to go absolutely radio silent towards the fanbase. And to be honest, a lot of the fans got really frustrated with this lack of communication from Blizzard, because everyone wanted to know more about Overwatch 2, it's just that Blizzard weren't giving. And because of Overwatch 2's development cycle, Overwatch 1 in turn kind of took a back seat and didn't really get any updates towards the end of its life cycle. And this kind of goes the same for Overwatch League as well. There was definitely a decline in viewership and a lack of updates. And of course, we can't really forget about the pandemic that happened, and so development was obviously halted by that because of a transition to work from home. But even so, because of that, I wouldn't say it's entirely excusable. And even with all of this, Overwatch 1 fans just kind of got bored. There was nothing new to do in the game, there was nothing new added, and so it just felt like you were playing the same song on repeat. And you could have really seen this with content creators. A lot of Overwatch content creators decided to shift to other games, and so Overwatch's viewership just got lower and lower on platforms like Twitch and YouTube. Okay, now let's just take a shift towards the actual launch of Overwatch 2. When Overwatch 2 launched, it was free to play, which of course everyone at first thought, that's amazing. But then of course there was this controversial monetization practice called a battle pass. And initially, and it even is the same to this day, new heroes were locked behind a paywall or the battle pass. The choice was yours. And because of this monetization, there was really a loss of trust with Blizzard. And this loss of trust got even deeper when it came to the PvE. There was no PvE campaign when it came to the launch, and there were only limited time PvE modes available, which, to be honest, just felt super shallow. And even with these PvE events that we did get, the lack of depth and player customization was just non-existent. And so many of us just kind of felt, well, disappointed. And even with all of this trouble that we had with Overwatch 2, the game just kept getting worse. It was very unstable. There were long queue times to even load into the game, and that was the same for the beta. But I mean, with the beta, kind of fair enough, it's a beta, so what more can you do? And I remember there was an account merging system, and many players even kind of lost their skins and their emotes, which just led to so much frustration from players, and a lot of players felt alienated by all of this controversial changes and also technical issues as well. And you might be thinking, I'm just like one dude who's just talking about Overwatch 2, but what did the general populace think of Overwatch 2? Well, to be honest, a lot of reviewers and just content creators in general loved the core gameplay loop of Overwatch 2, but the lack of content that was added to Overwatch 2 to kind of justify the number 2 being put on it was very lackluster. And I remember a lot of reviewers and content creators often saying that the game felt rushed and underdeveloped and uncooked, to be honest. And so it's justified in what they were saying, because Overwatch 2 definitely wasn't what it should have been when it launched. Post-launch content was kind of a similar thing. There was limited time PvE modes, but they failed to captivate an audience, and to be honest, were again just feeling really shallow and barely put together, to be honest. And the Battle Pass rewards that you would get from each season just felt excessive in their grind, and the skins just, to be honest, were not up to par with what Blizzard were normally known for. And so many people just felt that the game didn't engage them as much as Overwatch 1 did. And if you've played Overwatch 1 before, then you know how the game plays. It used to be a 6v6 game, but now with Overwatch 2 it became a 5v5, and so many people were kind of torn on what they thought that the new system would offer. Many people who liked 5v5 felt that the game was a bit faster, whereas people who liked 6v6 kind of felt that there was now a balance shift and it didn't feel the same. And even more so because of this, we saw a rapid decline in the Overwatch League for Overwatch 2. And of course, you can't even forget the amount of lawsuits and toxic work culture that has been surrounding Blizzard for a good many years at this point, and departures from people like Jeff Kaplan, for example, left the game with a loss of direction, and so Blizzard are just kind of scrambling with what to do. And even straight off the bat with Overwatch 2, people could see that Blizzard were more profit-driven with their game rather than player satisfaction-driven with their game. And by the time Overwatch 2 kind of found its footing, even though, you know, it still is kind of trying to find its footing, but games like Valorant, for example, another hero shooter, kind of took centre stage, and then also games like Apex Legends and Fortnite, which, although they may not be hero shooters, they are a show in shift in trend and player interest when it comes to what types of games they like to play. And as I've said in this video, it can be down to multiple things, like the lack of communication that Blizzard offered to its player base, and also the fact that creators and streamers just kind of shifted away from Overwatch 2, taking more attention away from the game. And the decline of Overwatch 2 is really down to like three things: broken promises, controversial monetization, and of course a lack of updates. To be honest, that's it. And also Blizzard's corporate issues as well, like losing key members of staff, and then also the lawsuits and the toxic work environment that was flooding the internet when it first came out. All of this really just aided to the decline of Overwatch 2, because Overwatch 2 really failed to meet player expectation. Many people just didn't feel like it was worth having Overwatch 2 rather than just Overwatch 1 that could have just kept being updated. It's a whole thing, but who knows, it's really uncertain if Blizzard would ever be able to get back what they thought that Overwatch 2 was going to be. And speaking of uncertainty, there is not much certainty that Overwatch 2 will ever be as popular as what Overwatch ever was. But thank you so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy, then subscribe and like, and comment if you're still playing Overwatch 2, because I'd really like to know if people are actually still playing it these days.